ahead and sign in to Scratch. And don't forget, I'll be talking like I'm doing a tutorial as well. So
Okay.
just FYI.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. Anywho, so let's go ahead and create a brand new Scratch project by hitting Create. And as soon as that loads, oh, why does it say I'm not signed in? There we go. And of course, the first thing I'm going to do as soon as this loads up is I'm going to rename it. And we will just call this Bubble Sorts. So this program is going to be a bubble sort. And what that is it's a program. Bubble Sort is a program that alphabetizes. That is the correct way. English spelling, of course. Program that alphabetizes words or letters in a list. So very common algorithm slash, program. Cool. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to grab an event block, and I think I'm going to grab a when flag is clicked block. So the very first thing, I have to first take some sort of input from the user so that I can add that stuff into a list. So I'll go over to sensing to get an input block or an ask block. And we'll say, please enter a word to add to the list. Please enter a word to add to the list. And then what I'll do now is I'm going to go to variables, and I'm actually going to create my list, because whatever the user types in, whatever the answer is, I want to add that to my list. So I can go over here to make a list, click on that. I'll just call this my list. Obviously, if I was making something specific, I'd probably name it something a little more specific than that, but we'll just call it my list. And then I want to add whatever the user typed in to my list. And then I want to put this into a loop so it's a lot easier to enter words or letters or whatever. So I'm going to go over to Control, and I'll just grab a forever loop, because I just want to loop this right here. So we've got this little block right there. And when I click the green flag, you'll see it says, please enter a word to add to a list. We'll just do testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's all working. You'll see it keeps going. Real quick though, I might want to also add something that resets this, because I don't currently have something. So maybe I could do something like this. If I go to events, I might do something like this where I have a when, let's do just when spacebar is pressed. Go back down to variables, and I might say delete all of my list, right? And in order to do the spacebar, obviously if you're in the text box and you're hitting the spacebar, it just spaces down there. So you want to actually just click up here, click somewhere on the screen, and then hit the space bar. Should clear out your list. And another super important thing, make sure to have notes, just so you know what things are. So this just clears list and resets program. And this one, takes an input from the user and adds it to the list. So far, so good?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so we've got a quick little clearing option. We've got our input set. That's all great. So now the question becomes, how do we alphabetize something? And so what I like to do is I like to keep this very, very simple. So I'm going to start out by putting a Z or a Z on the list and an A. And so our goal is to swap those two letters, because if we were going to alphabetize this super tiny list right here, the A would go first, the Z would go last, right?
Yeah.
So to check this, you'll see that I have this replace block here. And what I can do is it says like I can replace item that's in position 1 with the word thing. So if I click this, you'll see that thing just went up here and replaced what was in position 1. Okay, fair point, but that's not quite what I want to do, right? I want to replace it with the A. So I could do something like this, right? I could just type in an A there, and if I did that, it would replace the A. And then if I, maybe like duplicated that, I could say, well, then I want to replace item 2 with Z. So when I click this, okay, that works technically, right? So if I've got an A and a Z, if I click this, hey, it works, right? It swapped it. But is that really gonna work?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so, because if I did something like this, it works for A and Z, right? But if I did something like T and B, and I click this, it just puts A and Z in there. So that is not gonna work quite. So what I wanna do is I wanna make sure that it doesn't matter what's here. I just wanna look at what is in the index of my list. So if you remember, this is an index. It's like a position in a list, and these are the elements in the list. So rather than look at A and Z, and even like 1 and 2, I need to use a variable so that it can represent anything. So I'll come up to variables, and what I'm going to create is I'm going to create what's called an index variable, or I'm just going to call it an index variable, and that represents the position in my list, right? And the very first position you'll see is the number 1. So I always want to start off by setting my index to 1. And what I'm eventually going to want this to do is to check, I want it to look between 1 and 2 and see which one comes first in the alphabet and which one comes second. So because I'm comparing the two, I'm going to create a compare variable. And again, you could call this whatever you want to. This just makes sense to me, because index is where we start, and we compare the index to 2, which I will call the compare variable. So I'll set the index to 1, compare to 2. So when I click this, you'll see my index variable is 1, compare is 2. And so if I want to replace with the position 2, I'm going to need to use the compare variable right there. And then I'm going to need to use the index variable there, because if you remember, this is 1 and 2. That's the same as index and compare, right? Because index is 1, compare is 2. How does that look so far, Lev?
Looks pretty good.
Okay. Is it making sense?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. Cool. So far we've got like these 2 variables. And maybe what I'll even do, I'll just add a comment here and just say, what's that index in a list? A little smaller. And then this one, this index is compared against the first index, like that. So I like to just put notes in there just because it helps me to remember. If I ever come back, I can be like, oh yeah, I remember how that works. Okay, so far I want to replace what's in position 1. So let's switch our list back again. So we got Z and A, right? So I want to replace what's the item that's at the index, which is currently 1. So I want to replace the Z of my list with, and instead of saying A, what position is A in?
It's in the second box.
Yeah, exactly. So A is in index 2. So I can actually grab a compare. And actually, hold on, let me double check that. So when I click on compare, do you see how it just gives me a number?
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at this block, it says it replaces a number, right? So if I click index, you'll see it's 1. That makes sense. It replaces the item at that number of the list with a letter. But compare right now is a number. I want it to be a letter. And the way I can do that is I can come over here and I can grab this block of code right here. It says item number of my list. So if I click on this, you'll see that it shows the letter Z. And if I drop the compare in there, which is currently position 2, if I click on it, you'll see that that now says the letter A. Okay, so I'm going to take this, drop it right there. So if I read this, it says replace the item that's at the index, which is 1. So replace Z of the list with the item that's at position 2, which is A. Right? So I want to replace what's in, I want to replace the Z with A and the A with Z. So I guess technically I could do the same thing, right? I could say replace item that's at compare. So replace the A with, and I could just copy this again, but instead of saying compare that time, I'll say index. Right? Because if you look right here, oops, let me redo that. So this first block, we set the index to 1, compare to 2. I replace what's at the index, replace the Z with the item that's at 2. So I replace the Z with the A, and then I replace what's at the A with the Z. Let's see what happens if that works. So it just did 2 A's. That's kind of weird, right?
You might have to flip them.
I might have to what?
What if you flipped, like, put the compared to the first one, and ditch the second one?
Yeah, okay, let's try it. Let's switch these. Let me redo my list. I'll do Z and A again. Okay, I'm gonna click it. Now they're both Z's. So here's what's happening. We're taking the very first letter. So we're taking the first letter. I'll just redo it again. We're taking the first letter, which is Z, and we are replacing the Z with the A. So we delete this. So what we're doing is we're actually deleting this, making it A. And then we're coming down here and saying, hey, you know what? Now we want to replace what's here with what's in this position. And guess what? That's already an A. So then it changes this back to A again, because we actually deleted the Z by accident. So here's what we need to do instead. Very first thing we need to do is I'm going to create one last variable, and I'm going to call it temp, or temporary. It's going to be like a holder place value. And I'm going to grab one of these set blocks again, and I want to set my temp variable to nothing. I want to leave it empty. So I left that empty, and I'm going to put this back up here. Actually, no, I'll leave that there for a second. So set index to 1, compares it to, temps at 0. First thing I want to do is, because A is greater than A, because Z is greater than A, or Z comes after A in the alphabet, I want to move Z down here. which means I'm going to delete this A by accident. So what I want to do first is save this in my temp variable so I don't delete it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a set block like so. Actually, I don't need this block yet. I'll just do it like this. I'm going to set my temporary variable to what's in position 2. So I'm going to say compare. Set temporary variable to compare. Then what I can do, watch what happens when I click this block here. You'll see that the A moved up here now. Ooh, actually, you know what? Hang on one second. Set an A. I want to save what's in position 1. My bad. So not compare, but index. Okay, so look what happens when I click this little block here. Ah, that's right. So again, I said set temp variable to, this is a number. And I don't actually want a number, right? I want the letter itself. So I have to come over here again and grab this item number of my list. And instead, I'm going to put the index in there. So when I click this, you'll see that says Z.
Okay.
No, actually, I did have it right the first time. I want to save, sorry. Oops. I want to save compare. That's my bad. Because if you remember, I'm moving the Z down here. So that means I'm going to actually delete the A. So I want to save the A. So I use the item that's at compare of my list, which is A. I want to set that equal to my temp variable. Then what I can do, Liv, I can use this block of code here. So when I click this, you'll see now the A is up here, right? But don't forget, I need to move the Z down to the bottom. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to say replace compare, but this time instead of replacing it with the index, I want to replace it with my temp variable. And my temp variable should actually be a letter. Nope, it's still a number. Or is it a number because I just changed it to a number? Yeah, I want to just save it to temp. Or I want to replace the compare with my temp. So let me just check this out. Let's retry this here. Is that an A? I click this. Okay, it's still not putting the Z in there, and that's probably because, let's see, that's giving me a letter.
I think it's the one that you said was a temp one that gave you a number.
Yeah, I'm putting the wrong letter in there. Let me see for 1 second. So I want to replace what's at position 1 with A, but I'm saving I want to replace, 1 sec. I save the A, which is correct.
Well, when I do it for me, it's just blank.
I know why. I mixed them up. So see how I saved the temporary variable as A, but now I want to replace A with Z. So I want to replace my compare, what's in the number 2 position. I want to replace that with what's already in the first position, which would be my index. So look, when I click here, see how it's a Z? I now want to replace the compare, this one right here, with what's in the first place. So if I drop that in, right? So watch what happens when I click this block. Do you see how it turned to a Z there?
Yeah.
Then last but not least, I want to replace what's in the index position, right? Which is 1. I want to replace that with the A, with my temporary variable. All right, so watch this. We have our Z, we have our A. When I click this little block of code, you'll see that they swap. Right now, so far, this will work if I do anything like that. So watch this, right? Let's say I put a Y and a B, right? And if I click this code, they'll swap. Cool, so they're alphabetical.
What if the ABC, like let's say A was at the top and then D and C.
See what happens. Ooh, that's weird. So it didn't touch the C and it just swapped the A and the B, or the A and the D, which is wrong, right?
Yeah.
So at the moment, Liv, all this code is doing is it's just taking the first spot and the second spot and swapping them. Nothing is telling us.
Box?
What's that?
The repeat until thing?
We will need to eventually. However, the first thing we need to do is figure out a way to tell which letters go in what order, right? Because all this is doing right here is flipping it around.
Right.
Yeah, so here's what we're gonna do. Let me go over to operators. So come over to operators and let's grab a greater than block. And if I put a Z in the greater than spot, so if I say Z is greater than A, is this true or false, Liv?
True.
Let's see. It is true. Z is greater than A, because if you remember, you can think about it like this. Like A comes first, then B, C, D, E, etc. So E is going to be greater than A, because A is up at the first spot, E is down here.
Right.
So what I want to do, in order to make this work, I need to say if the letter that's in position 1 is greater than what's in position 2, I want to switch them. But if it's not, so like if it's A and Z, I don't want it to do anything because it's already in alphabetical order, right?
Yeah.
Only if what's in 1 is greater than what's in 2. So here's what I'm going to do to figure that out. I'm actually going to I'm going to duplicate this little thing, because if I click it, you'll see that it says A. And I'm going to duplicate the compare one as well. So if I click item index of my list, it shows A, and this one shows Z. So what I want to do, Liv, I want to say, is the compare index, is the letter that's in the compare spot bigger than what's in the first spot? So let's check that. Okay, it's true, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And actually, you know what? I think I want to flip that around. No. That's exactly
Wait, mine is false. Hold
on. Then it's probably the list that's different.
Oh.
Make sure it's Z and A. Because this should be...
anything in.
Okay.
Let's see. And you said the compare one first?
Well, actually, so look right here, right? You could do it both ways, but let me just show you this real quick. So I only want these to swap if the statement is true. And right now, this is saying false because it's saying that Z, this statement is saying, is Z greater than A? Well, it's not greater than A, right? So I actually do want to swap these because I want to say is what's in the first position when compared to the second, is the first one bigger? Because if it is, I want to swap it down.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is grab a control, and I'm going to do an if-then block. Because I don't really want this to do anything else if this statement is false. Because that means if it's already A and Z, I don't want it to do anything. It's already in alphabetical order. If this statement's true, then swap them, but otherwise leave it. So I'm going to put that code, my comparison operator here, into my if-then statement.
Great.
And let me just reload my list. Okay. So if index 1 is greater than what's in index 2, which it is, what we want it to do is this block of code right here. So let's see what happens when I click this. Ooh, nice. It swapped. Now let me try it again, right? Let's see if it works again. Yeah, it's working, right? Because this is already in the right position. So when I click this, it's not doing anything.
Right.
Let's check this with something else. Let's do C and B. So C is bigger than B, so these should swap. Let's take a look. Cool. So far, so good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But now here's the tricky part. So that works on 1 and 2. Let's say I have let's say I have 3 letters. Well, I know that Z is bigger than G and G is bigger than B. So really what should happen, Z should move all the way down here. And then G should move down next, and then B should be on the top. So it should be B, G, Z.
Or G could just stay in the same place.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely true. And it will technically stay in the same place.
Yeah.
So if I click this, okay, the G and the Z move. Let's try doing it again. Okay, why is nothing happening when I'm clicking that?
Because it's only recognizing the 2. The first index and the second index.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just looking at first and second. So nothing's happening because it's right here. So what I need to do is I need to grab under variables a change block, and I want to change the index by 1. And I also want to change the compare by 1. So let me do this one more time. Clear this out. We'll just do C, B, and A. For right now, I'm just going to pull this off. And I just want to reset. So you'll see my index is 1. My compare is 2. We got CBA. When I click this once, you'll see the B and the C change. Now I'm going to click my change the index and compare variables. So watch what happens to index and compare. That now changes to 2 and 3. So now it's going to look at 2 and 3. So if I click it again, okay, so now the A and the C are moved. So the C's at the bottom, then I got an A, then I got a B. Let's see what happens if I click this again. Okay, nothing's happening, right? Because it's still looking at just 2 and 3. So let's increase this again. So now I'm looking at 3 and 4. Let's see what happens when I do this. It deleted one of my letters.
Yeah, that's the problem I had.
Why did it do that?
Because we don't have a 4th index.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what it's doing is it's actually looking and saying, is 3, or is, like, there was a C here, right?
Yeah.
So it said, like, is the C bigger than a blank space? And you'll see right here, let me just show you something. Greater than, is a C greater than nothing? Let's take a look. Yeah, it is. So it swapped it and it replaced it with nothing. It did exactly what we told it to do, but there's nothing there.
Right.
So here's how we fix that. So take a look here. Let's reset everything. Oh, and you know what? Since I have my little reset code up here, I'm actually going to duplicate that bit of code, put it there so that every time I hit the space bar, deletes the list and it resets this. And you know what? I might even say, let's clear out the temp variable too. Let's just make that nice and empty. Every time I hit the space bar, that'll happen. Okay, so let's try this. Here we go. So let me put in a list again, CBA. I'm going to click this block of code once, the B and the C change. Cool. Let's increment this. So let's go up by 1 for each. So now it's looking at 2 and 3. Click that. Okay, that's cool. But now here's the thing. I can't go again because there's nothing there. So what I want to do actually is now restart. So look what happens when I click this over here. Okay, we go back to 1 and 2. Now, is B greater than A?
Yes.
Yeah, so look what happens when I click. Ooh. Now A, B, and C are in order. So the way I can now make that a lot faster, Liv, is I want to put this little block of code here into a repeat loop. But now here's the thing, it can only repeat a certain number of times. So let me try this one more time. I'll do CBA, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many letters are on my list here?
3.
3. Now, help me out a second. I'm just going to move that down. So when I click, my index is 1, compares 1. I clicked 1 time, right? My list is 3. I clicked once so far. The B and the C changed. I increment these up by 1. Click it again. That's 2. Now the C is in the right place. Let me increment it again. And you'll see on the third click, I lose that letter because I'm looking at something that's not there. How many times can I click, or how many times can I run this code before I lose this thing here?
4. Well, technically 3. It's in the 4th one. Just goes away.
Well, let's see. So I got C, B, and A. Click it 1 time, the B and the C change. I increment. I click it a second time. The C's there. I increment it again, and I click it a 3rd time.
Yeah, okay, it's 3.
So I lost it on the 3rd, right?
All right.
So how many times can I click it, really?
2.
2 times. Because because I'm starting at 1, if I click it 3 times, I'm eventually going to be looking at what's in position 4, which I don't want it to do. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to repeat this for the length of my list right here. So if I click this, there's 3. The length of my list minus 1. Because I don't want it to go the whole length of the list. I just want it to go the length of the list minus 1. And I do the minus 1 because I start at 1. So if I go 3 times, I'm starting at 1, here's 1, 2, and then 3 times I'm looking at something that's not there. So if I'm starting at 1, 1, 2, 3, that's 2 times. So 1,
So
2.
What would the minus 1 do then?
That makes it so see how the length of my list is 3?
Yeah.
If I were to run my code 3 times.
Oh, and then the blank one. Oh, I see.
Yeah, so if I start here, this is, oops. If I'm starting at 1 and I run my code, I run it 1 time, 2 times, I end here. But if I run it 3 times, I go run it once, twice, 3 times is down here. So I want to do the length minus 1. The length is 3. If I subtract 1, I'm only running it 2 times.
Right.
And I take that and I put it right there. So let's try this out again. Let's do CBA. Let's see what happens. Let me click this. Okay, so kind of works, right? The C's in the right place. Yeah, but here's the other thing. This is what I didn't do. Once I go through the whole list, I have to restart again. Because all I'm doing, Liv, with this first block of code, I'm just moving the C all the way to the bottom.
Do you need to put the set block somewhere?
The which block?
What resets it, right? The set index.
So, yeah, see these 2 blocks here?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put them there. But what I'm going to do this time is I'm also going to repeat this block. I'm going to put a repeat around the whole thing. And I'm also going to run that loop the same number of times that I run the inner loop. And that might seem a little confusing, but I'll explain why it works in a second. So let me show you this right here. We looked at this the other day. I'll zoom out just a tiny bit. Okay, so let's say I have a list of letters, right? This list has 5. There's E, D, C, B, A. Now, this is the most sort of scrambled it could be, Liv, because for alphabetical order, right, this is the complete opposite of alphabetical order. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because it's completely opposite. So E, D, C, B, A, because if it were in alphabetical, that would be first, that would be second, third, fourth, fifth. So when I run my code, the first thing it does is it's basically checking this letter here. Is E greater than D? Yeah, so move it here. Is E greater than C? Yeah, so move it here. Is E greater than B? Yeah, move it here. Is E greater than A? Yeah, move it here. Then I have to restart that and go back to the beginning. And because the E's at the bottom, it pushed the D up to the top. So it'll say, is D bigger than C? Yeah, it is, so move it. Okay, is D bigger than A? Yeah, move it here. Or D bigger than B, sorry, D bigger than A, D bigger than E. Do you see how that works?
Yeah.
So it's moving it down. And each time, do you see how I'm losing 1 each time?
Yeah.
Because I'm not going as far in my list anymore. Because now the bottom 2 letters are alphabetical. And here the bottom 3 are. And then here, all of them are. And you see how the list is only 5 long? And you look, I run the loop, I only have to run the loop 1 less than the length of the list.
Right.
So this part right here is this part in our code.
Oh,
Okay?
I see.
Yeah, so this part in the middle is this part. And then the outer loop, which is this part here, is actually this part over here.
Oh, okay.
So let's try this out. There. Oopsie. All right, so let's try this. So let's refresh. Let's do a CBA. I'll click this and see what happens. Let's see what happens. Woo! Did it work?
Yes.
It did work. Now, here's the thing. So like, let's say you're writing this in Python. You don't want to have to keep repeating this code all the time. So what I'm going to do is actually create a function for it, or define a function. So at the moment, I sort of have 3 scripts happening. I have a when flag is clicked. That lets me enter words.
Right.
I have the space bar, which is my like reset. Now I want to go to my blocks and create one. And I'm going to create a sort. That is what I want to call my function. Now remember, Scratch does not know what this means. That's why I have to define it. So it's going to sort alphabetically. And I want to add some input because I want it to sort a list. So that's going to take in a list. And I'll hit OK. Now, do you see I have this block right here?
Yes.
You see that block there?
Yeah.
So this is my sort function. And it's defined right here. This, I'm telling Scratch that this block right here does this stuff that's underneath it.
Right, and we have to put that little small one in the when flag is clicked, right?
Yeah, or you know what I'll do? Because I already have a when flag is clicked, I might actually go with a when this sprite is clicked.
Oh, okay.
Oops. And then what this is going to do, this is going to actually be the thing that that sorts my list. This script will actually sort the list.
Does that blank thing matter? This will...
Well, yeah, here's what I'm going to do with it. You mean this right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over to my lists, or my variables, and you'll notice, do you see I have this list right here?
Yes.
I want this to sort my list.
Okay.
It's going to sort my list. So let's take a look. I'm going to reset everything. Let's add, I'll do the one that I did in the spreadsheet thing. So EDCBA.
So
Let's see what happens when I click the sprite. Woohoo! Yay! And it worked. A, B, C, D, E. And so just a real quick one, Liv. Do you see how, and obviously I have a lot of notes, so it kind of looks a little messy, so I'll just shrink these for a sec. But do you see how it's kind of maybe a little easier when you do little chunks of code rather than like a giant thing?
Yeah. What if you put in like words? Like cake, apple, cherries.
Oh, like words into my list?
Yeah, would it still sort it?
Yeah. Because the way the computer works, so remember, your computer does not actually know what the word like apple means. It does not know what that means at all. All it knows is that each letter has a number of some sort that can be converted into binary, which is ones and zeros, which can then be processed by the computer as like little electrical pulses.
Right.
Right? The computer could care less what word you use. What it does is it says, okay, like I could do this. I could do apple, something like this, like apple A. Apple A. Oh, wait, hold on. I'll do it backwards. So apple E, apple D, apple C, E, apple A, B, C, D, E. So when I click my cat, you'll see that it flips that. So it looks, if the A's are the same, so see right here where it's comparing, here a little comparison right here.
Right.
It first looks at the A and it's like, oh, they both got A's. Okay, what's next? They both got P's. Both got P's. Both got L's, E's. Both have underscores. They're like, oh, here we got an A. A is actually bigger than the B. No, sorry, the B is like bigger than the A or whatever. And then it can see. It'll go through the whole thing.
What if the words are scrambled and it's not backwards like that? Like
let's see. Let's see what
Like
happens.
P U L M. like that.
Oh, you mean if they're all in different places?
Yeah.
Let's take a look. A, B, C, G, I, P, U. Yep, they're all still in order. And
Okay.
here's why that works, Liv. Let me show you why again. So this is like, if the letters are just randomly scrambled, it still does the exact same thing. But do you see right here how it already sorted it in this position right here?
Right.
It can be different. Like you can have a letter where maybe your list is just like this, but only the bottom two letters are swapped. The program's still gonna run all these times, but all it's doing is checking, and it's like, nope, that's good, that's good, that's good, that's good, that's good. And it's like, oh, here's the problem. Then it swaps it. So the program will still run the total number of times, but it's just swapping the ones where the greater letter is on top of the smaller letter.
Right.
Yeah, so it will always work in that way. And then let's say, just for fun, maybe I'll throw in a number here. More letters, maybe another number. So I've got all these like weird numbers. If I click the cat, you'll see that it puts the numbers up top. Smaller number first, larger number, then all the letters.
Okay.
Maybe, you know what? I'll put in a couple other letters. And you know what? Maybe I'll throw in an exclamation point. Why not? Right? Let's see what happens. Look. There you go. And the symbols come even before the numbers. Do you remember when we talked about Unicode?
I think so.
It's like the code that's given to different characters on a keyboard, like symbols or maybe even emojis, letters, capital letters. They all have a value that is like broken all the way down into just electrical signals, and it knows how to organize it. So that's the power of the computer. Rather than you having to physically go through this list, which we could do, the computer is really fast at doing it.